We're back. It's GrokTALK, brought to you by the Coalition of New Hampshire Taxpayers and the bloggers at GraniteGrok.com. Coming to you live, almost alive, every week from Concord, New Hampshire, all over the world. Check us out on Ustream, YouTube, Blip TV, Spreaker, TuneIn, iHeart, Stitcher, and more.
Thank you for turning me on. Yes,
You're
we are
welcome.
all over the place, and there's very few places that we are not, as Steve said.
Yeah, and we're going to keep moving along here because it's have a candidate for some Senate somewhere on the show day. And joining us from some undisclosed location is Senator Bob Smith. Senator, welcome to the program.
Well, it's not undisclosed. It's Bedford, New Hampshire. So.
Well, now it's disclosed. See, I didn't know that.
Didn't want you to think I was in Hawaii or something.
No, you're definitely in the state. And we're glad to have you here. Thanks for coming on.
Yep, glad to be here.
All right, so I didn't get a chance to figure out what we were all going to talk about, but there's plenty of things we can. Where do you want to start?
Well, I mean, you know, we're in the middle of a Senate campaign. We're in the basically it's almost to the day, 3 months away. September 9th is going to roll around pretty fast. So whatever issues are of concern, I think we all know that our country's in trouble for many of the reasons that you guys spend a lot of time talking about. Obviously, the debt and the loss of freedoms, especially those are the things that seem to come up the most. The fact that Obama is taking more and more of our freedoms and liberties every single day, and when they get our money, they then can control us, and we need to stop it. I mean, that's why I'm running. That's why I'm back.
Well, let's talk about a couple of recent issues that we haven't had a chance to talk to you about since. VA wait list.
Well, obviously, that's one of the most outrageous scandals that I've been made aware of in my political lifetime, and indeed in my lifetime. It's so outrageous because it goes right to the essence of who we are morally and to our character as a nation, that anything like that would happen, that people who serve their country would be given that kind of treatment, no pun intended, no treatment, that is totally being ignored and not even being given the opportunity to be treated for something that turned out to be life-threatening and basically being put on a waiting list and allowed to die. I'll get to the bigger picture, what I think we should do, but just to continue on that for a moment. You know, a resignation, fine. Shinseki resigned. Maybe Obama should have resigned. He's the one that hired Shinseki. I think it's really indicative of what happens when the federal government tries to run something or do something that it's not supposed to do under the Constitution. You know, and we're going to go that way with Obamacare. And if you're talking about bureaucrats who nobody elected, we don't even know who they are. They're nameless and faceless. They make these decisions that cost veterans their lives. This is not about money. This is about lives, people who died. And I've long been in favor of, and over the years, and many veterans had not really been in favor of it, so I never pushed it aggressively, but I think it has to be pushed now. And that's call it what you want, a gold card, a MasterCard, some gold card, some card that allows a veteran, he carries it with him or she carries it with him or her, and when they need to go to a facility, a medical facility, they just show the card, and wherever it is, and that's it. You know, you're treated. You're veterans. They deserve that, and that's what I would be supportive of.
I think that's something we brought up when Obamacare first came up. The VA issue of a hospital in New Hampshire came up, and I think everybody at Granite Grok was unanimous in the notion that that was the solution. You know, why don't they just have a VA card? They go to their doctor. They don't have to drive an hour. They don't have to drive 2 hours.
Right.
They don't have to go cross-country. There are literally dozens of top-flight hospitals within driving distance of everywhere in New Hampshire. You can go down to Boston, where you have some globally known top-notch hospitals, where you could use these benefits to get any service you needed as a vet.
Sure, absolutely. And you know, the veterans, some of them were reluctant to support that because they wanted to be in a VA hospital. They wanted to be with colleagues, you know, fellow veterans, and I understand that. But you know, you can't. There are certain types of specialty items, specialty treatments, specialty kinds of doctors that you just can't have in a basically a general VA hospital. And so wherever wherever they need to go. If they want to go to a VA hospital, that's fine. Wherever they want to go, they go. But to have this card to allow them the access to medical treatment would resolve this issue, and they should not be treated. If they're going to be treated differently than everybody else, they should be treated not worse, that's for sure. And that's what happened here. But I think we also need to distinguish. There's some really fine people that work in these hospitals, certainly here in Manchester and other places around the country, who are good people, who are, God bless them, for taking care of our veterans, and especially those in their older years that really need a lot of help and a lot of treatment. But we're not talking about those kind of people. We're talking about these morons in this hierarchy who made decisions to just literally stop treatment, which is, no one's, obviously, everybody, you can demagogue it all you want, everybody is obviously opposed to it, but we got to do something about it, and we just cannot treat our veterans that way. We just can't do it, and the people that did this have to pay the price. And I hope this is not another one of these deals where we sweep it under the rug, like, we're going to get to the bottom of what happened with the NSA spying. We're going to get to the bottom of what happened with the harassment by the IRS of conservative groups. We're going to get to the bottom of Benghazi. Well, we haven't reached the bottom yet, that's for sure. We can't get any answers, and I hope that's not going to be the same thing here. Whoever these people are under Shinseki that did this, they should be exposed, they should be prosecuted, and they should be put in prison.
Definitely criminal charges, those people falsifying reports strictly for their bonuses. I think the fact that whether it's Gitmo prisoners or illegal immigrants getting better health care than our veterans is a disgrace.
I think you could, Steve, I think you could even go to manslaughter. If they deliberately held treatment up from a person who they knew had, say, a terminal disease or could have prevented a death had they been treated and weren't allowed to get to their physician, I think you could pull a manslaughter out of that as well. So whatever it is, they need to be punished. That's for sure.
Can the VA be privatized?
Well, I don't know. It would. I think it could be. I guess. But I just want to be sure that we don't. When I see these commercials where veterans, where these country music guys are and others are promoting, asking for help. I mean, God bless them for doing it, and God bless them for what they're doing and providing help to our veterans. But veterans shouldn't have to go out and beg for help. They should have it. That's one service that I think the government should make available to veterans. It doesn't have to be a VA hospital. So to that extent, no, it wouldn't have to be privatized. I think we got to make sure that whatever happens, they get the treatment they deserve as veterans coming back. They should be treated the same as they were treated as a warfighter. They should be given everything they need to protect themselves and in doing their job, and I view that as when they come home as well. So whatever it is, whatever it takes, I think, frankly, the gold card would be the best route. But I'm not opposed to looking at other options as long as the veteran gets the treatment they deserve without any hassle.
Senator, this is Skip, and the other topic of the issue of the day is obviously the Bergdahl, Sergeant Bowie Bergdahl's return from the Taliban and the issuance of 5 really, really hardcore Taliban fighters out of Gitmo. It looks like once again we're seeing President Obama trying to do an end run around the Congress, just like they're doing with the EPA and the war on coal with the new EPA regulations, which, by the way, here in New Hampshire we'd have to reduce our emissions by 64% in such a small state, which literally could devastate the economy that we've all been talking about so far.
Shut the government down, that'll do it.
Yep, the old cap and trade, yep, absolutely.
Yeah. So if you get back into Congress, how do you stop this running around by the executive branch to do what, just because Obama said, well, I've got so many levers of power here in the executive branch, I don't need Congress. How do you make Congress relevant again? How do you stop this lawlessness?
First of all, let me just say, I think we should cap and trade Obama. That would be it's just a question of where we cap him and where we trade him. I mean, I never thought I'd say, well, Putin might be... No, I better not go there.
You can put him in charge of the EU.
Yeah.
UN, I think he'd like that.
Well, I think, look, first of all, the fact that he did not inform Congress, I'll get to the coal thing in a minute, but first of all, on the Bergdahl thing, the fact that he did not inform Congress or said he didn't have time is a total joke. I mean, he had time to get the parents at a White House ceremony. They knew, so they had to get there. and Congress didn't know. And yeah, look, I understand you can't go out and go search 535 bodies, find them somewhere, and tell them, hey, we're going to make a swap here, or whatever we're going to do. We're going to inform Congress. I understand that, but there is a process that is acceptable to most members of Congress, and that would be you call the majority leader and the minority leader. Either call them or have them come down to the White House, whatever works, if it's depending on how urgent it is and how much time they have, and you tell them, here's what's happening. Or you consult them, which would be better, but if you're not going to consult them, you're going to violate the Constitution, at least tell them what's happening. They didn't do that, to the best of my knowledge. So that's outrageous. I mean, as long as if I'm a member of the Senate and my leadership has been told, and the leadership doesn't tell me, okay, I got it, but at least somebody in authority in the Congress was told. Because you may not be able to reach 100 senators, obviously, or 435 representatives. But the point, and the bigger point here is that the whole action was executive order. It's a violation of the Constitution. I did not verify this. I haven't read it, but I was told that there was something in the Defense Authorization Act that said that any of those prisoners out of Guantanamo, Congress had to be consulted, and apparently that did not happen. So here again, violate the Constitution. I mean, what the heck? It's only our Constitution. Why follow that, right? I mean, it's outrageous. And then if you want to go, and I can go into more detail on Bergdahl if you want, but on your other part of your question was about the coal. This has always been just outrageous. We need more energy in this country, and if we get more energy, we wouldn't have people in the Middle East dying. We have our own energy. We can drill it. We can't even get the president to agree to the Keystone Pipeline, which would produce jobs and energy. And we need to drill in public lands where it's not environmentally sensitive. There's so many things. We need more nuclear power plants. We need to remove the subsidies, the government subsidies, and allow the free market to move ahead and create more energy. And we do that. We'll create more jobs. We get out of the Middle East, and as Barry Goldwater said decades ago, let them sit over there in the Middle East and drink their oil. We don't need it. I mean, that would be nirvana. That's what we need to do. And but whatever. This guy is just this president. Everywhere you go, everywhere I go. I just left the meeting a few minutes ago, a Republican gathering, and everybody's just stunned with the actions that this guy takes, and he seems to be getting away with it.
Senator, we're going to take the 60-second break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This is GrokTALK. We're talking to Senator Bob Smith.
Steve McDonald's here. Ever notice how some Democrats get all worked up about photo ID? No, not the ID you use to access all those government services like unemployment, Social Security, welfare, and even Obamacare. I'm talking about photo ID to vote. And I don't think it's the photo part. Democrats love photos. President Obama's got a real nice one of himself with the pretty blonde Danish prime minister that he took while his wife Michelle was sitting right next to him scowling. So if it's not the photo, it must be the ID. But the only reason to object to the ID would be if you were either not who you said you were, or you didn't live where you said you lived. Which might explain why some Democrats get so upset when you ask for one. I say some Democrats because a recent poll in New Hampshire reported that almost 60% of registered Democrats and 75% of all registered voters thought voter ID was a good idea. So if it's not the New Hampshire residents, or even Democrats who oppose voter ID, it must be the kind that can't get elected unless they can get people to vote in your town who have no business voting there. I'm Steve McDonald for Granite Rock, and we'll keep shining the light on it for you.
GrokTALK.
We are back with Senator Bob Smith, and of course Steve Kenda is still with us. Skip Murphy and myself. I am Steve McDonald, and we are GrokTALK.
Yippee-ki-yay!
Yeah. So onward and forward.
During the break, Senator Bob Smith, question was asked, and it speaks to this coal bit and Obama's war on coal. Famously, he said that before his first election, people are free to erect another coal-generating electrical plant, but it'll necessarily bankrupt them because that was his goal. He looks like he's trying to do that now. How do we stop the lawlessness? At what point do we get to that constitutional crisis? The military swears an oath not to the president, not to the government, but to the Constitution. So does everybody in Congress and the U.S. House. But yet we see the lawlessness go on. We see that impeachment could be started in the House, but politically it's a non-starter because the Democrats in the Senate would never vote to convict, because have we gone past a constitutional republic and merely sliding into a partisan form of government, almost parliament style?
Well, I think you could certainly make that argument, that's for sure. But I believe that I think we have to do our best to see that does not happen, that we respect the Constitution, and that happens. At least we still have the right to vote. When Jefferson wrote the Declaration, and he talked about when a tyrannical government ignores the will of the people, or words to that effect, then the citizens rise up and take control. But the thing is, we can do that with the vote, and we are electing these people in our country who are doing this to us. Maybe not the folks on this phone call are the ones that did it, but when you look at what happened to the guy in Guilford who gets arrested for reading to the public what his poor daughter had to read, dirty language in a book, and he's dragged away in handcuffs, and people say, what in the world is going on? It's not just federal elections. It's not just president, senator, Congress. It's also selectmen, school board members, town clerks. I mean, gosh knows, everybody, I don't know about a town clerk, but certainly people in elective office who make decisions. We've got to change this. We've got to convince people that we are not going to change the left. They are determined to beat us, and we must defeat them, and accommodating them, and moving to the middle, and playing games with them, and trying to, make them join us or us join them isn't going to get it done. They're not going to change their minds on their issues, on their views, and the reason why we have all this stuff, you name it, political correctness, Common Core, you could go down the line, at debt, 18 trillion debt, is because we collectively elect the people who did this to us. And I have to tell you guys, I mean, Skip and Steve, and two Steves, right?
Correct.
When I go out on the stump, it amazes me that I've heard all these guys that are running for president. Rand Paul, is up here. Mike Lee, Marco Rubio, you name them. They've all been up here, and there'll be more of them. And they all say the same thing. In order to win, we must show a bright line distinction between them, the left, who take away our freedoms, and us on the right, who want to maintain those freedoms and preserve them for our future. They say that, but then they'll turn right around and support somebody who doesn't believe in that. For example, Marco Rubio. He's supporting Scott Brown. Now, he just got an award from the National Pro-Life people for being a champion for life. I used to get them all the time when I was there. But he got one, and then he endorses Brown. Now, Brown's not pro-life. So if you're not willing to back up what you do, you've got to be willing to put it on the line. It's not about words. God knows if words would solve problems, we'd have them solved. It's not words. It's actions. You must back up what you say with what you do. And that's why we lose. And, it's just very frustrating. I just see it all the time. And some of these same people who stood up and stomped and applauded and roared when Cruz and others were speaking about the bright line distinction between the left and the right, they're applauding, and you turn right around and support somebody who doesn't even stand up for the basic conservative principles of the Republican Party. I mean, it's frustrating. And I'm sure there are people out here now saying, well, why are you attacking an opponent? You know what? I'm not attacking an opponent personally. It's about issues. This is not a Sunday school picnic where we go out and here's the red shirts, you guys are on the defense, here's the green shirts, you guys are on the offense, let's play a game of tag football or whatever. This is about our nation. This is about preserving America, and you got to stand up, and we can't do it by playing footsie with the enemy. They beat us every single time. To use the football analogy, if you're on defense all the time, you're likely not going to win the football game, and that's where we are, and we do it to ourselves. We need to be together as conservatives with the principles and values that we stand for. That's the only way we win.
I listen to you, and I am in heartfelt agreement with you, Senator Smith, because I've got a page on GrokTALK called Progressives and the Proper Role of Government, and all I do is just list their actual words. And here's one from New Hampshire State, Deborah DeSimone, who is a Republican. The Constitution is a guideline. Okay, this is not an idea of, well, we don't cross these things, or we have to value this letter and the spirit. She says, it's only a guideline, no big deal. New Hampshire State's Rep. Sandra Kearns, who used to be a Republican, now a Democrat, so at least she made the right move. I don't try to justify anything by the Constitution. It's not my job, and I don't want to do it. And all of us here keep saying the Constitution is the job for everybody. But because of our educational system that we talked about with Steve Kenda here and with Gary McDaniels both running for an NH State Senate, it's our educational system. What do you think?
Well, it's a pretty good reason as to if the Constitution is a heck of a lot more than a guideline. If somebody believes that, then they really have no business in elective office. They have a right to run. Don't misunderstand me, but the business is that we need to start minding the store as voters and not elect people who would make a statement like that. That's about one of the most outrageous statements I ever heard of.
It's lawless.
The Soviet Constitution had more freedoms than the American Constitution. That's because they didn't abide by it. They didn't stick to the values and principles under it. These are basic rights under that Constitution. That's what we founded. That was how our country was founded. They're basic. They are inherent as they can be, other than the God-given rights that we get.
This just goes on forever. New Hampshire State Rep. Lee Webb, Democrat. The role of government is to legislate behavior. Yeah. It just drives me absolutely crazy.
Skip brought up the education component, and I think people fail to realize that the Constitution is the supreme law of the state or the land, and that all other laws are measured against it, which is why you can have things like judges that change decisions about how laws are interpreted based on their view of the Constitution. But when a state representative says that it's a guideline, my question is, well, there's lots of things that are guidelines. They're called laws. You write them all the time. Why would anybody want to follow those? Why do you even bother? Because you don't think the Constitution is a law. We obviously have a problem. People don't understand what a Constitution is.
No, they don't. And you also have now this movement to have another constitutional convention, which would be a total disaster because the left would get in there and they would start rewriting the Constitution, and then our country will accelerate faster over the cliff than we're going now. Look, even if I could, I know we're among friends here, but even among the Liberty folks right here in New Hampshire, we're split. We're split in this primary.
We are.
And I don't understand it. I'm almost tongue-tied about it. I just don't get it. I don't want to be personal here and to get into any names or anything like that. But the thing is, we have to be united on the basic principles and values. And if there's an issue or two somewhere that's different, fine. But that's okay. But it's not basic constitutional freedoms. We have to be able to we have to understand that this country is slipping away because we're losing our freedoms. And if we have to deal with two candidates in a race in a general election, either of whom is willing to sacrifice those principles, then we are going to lose our country. Never mind the election. The heck with the election. The heck with Bob Smith or Jim Rubens or Scott Brown. Who cares? We're gone, and we're going to be gone. We're a blip on the radar screen. Hopefully, the Constitution will not be a blip on the radar screen, and it'll be here for a long, long time, and our nation will be here for a long, long time. But history shows that is not true. That we're lucky if we're here a couple of 100, 300 years. You can go down the line with the great, leaders, nations of the world, from Rome to Greece to Rome to, when England was on top, Portugal, Spain, all these countries on top. Okay, how long is America going to be on top if we do this? We're going to dilute ourselves, and with money, when they take our money like they do, they being the left, the planners, plan our lives with Common Core and all the other things, they take our money, they control us. They take our values, they take our money, they take everything we have, our self-respect, and then down we go. And we become wards of the state. We're begging, we're begging for their money, and here we go. So this has to change, or we lose. I mean, it's that simple. And we need to be together. At least Liberty folks need to be together on that. And but we're not, and so that always increases the risk that we nominate the wrong person to make the fight and to take it to the left.
Okay, let me give you just one more quote and then ask you for some contact information for people who want to see how you stand, vis-a-vis your website and emails and stuff. New Hampshire State Representative Laura Pantalakos, I don't care about protecting people's liberty. She's the chair of the Public Safety Commission or committee in the New Hampshire House, and I look at that and go, I thought that's what government was for, according to the Declaration of Independence. So, Senator Smith, if people want to find out more about how you stand on the issues, what's the website and how do they get in contact with you?
Quickly on your point before I say that, she's violating the office, that she sought or is occupying by saying such a thing. But and the people that elected her. Bob Smith for U.S. Senate, BOBSMITHFOR, USSenate.com. We'd love to have you join me and look on the website. I think most of the questions are answered, but if they're not, I'd be happy to answer them if you contact me.
Senator Smith, thanks so much for taking some time to talk to us. I'm sure we'll have you on again pretty soon, I hope.
Yeah, it's only 3 months away, so
all right,
it's coming up fast.
We'll squeeze you back in a couple of times. Thanks a lot for spending some time with us. You have a great weekend.
Thank you. You too.
All right, that was Senator Bob Smith. Always glad to have people on. We try to get some big-name guests,
Well, we're a very small blog in a very small state. We're happy to have anybody to come and talk to us.
One of the huge advantages that we have is that we are in a small state, and I mean the retail politics is a very real thing, and it's just amazing. People are like talking. You talk to people in other states, and they're like, "Oh, so and this and that," and they says, "Oh, yeah, well, I talk to my senators, my congressmen, my governor all the time. I see them in places. I can just go see them today if I whatever,
Yeah.
And they're like, "Really?
They know me by name."
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Stephen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for inviting me in today.
Well, and this is what we mean. We had the ability to pull you in today. We couldn't do that in a bigger state.
Nope.
If we were in California, you'd just look at me and sniff.
All right, we're out of here. I'm Steve McDonald. He's Skip Murphy. Steve Kenda, thank you again. This is GrokTALK. We'll be back next week without me, but Skip will be here with some great guests and some great conversations, so please tune in.
GrokTV.